I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Loretta Township Board of Adjustment on March 25th, 2024. A legal notice required in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act has been satisfied, and a statement certifying same will be executed. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Goldberg.
Here.
Ms. Simmons.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
Mr. Schuster. Mr. Kramer.
Here.
Mr. Woodruff.
Here.
Mr. Oler.
Here.
Mr. Henson.
Here.
Mr. Phillips.
Here.
My son is Santiago here.
Next matter will be consideration for approval of the minutes of the January 22nd, 2024 meeting. Any board members have any comments or issues with the minutes? I have a motion to approve the minutes. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have a resolution for application number BA-26-23. Mr. Oler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a memorializing resolution for the application filed by Jonathan Block, who applied to the board for permission to install a generator within the front yard of a townhouse-style condominium property where no accessory structure may be located closer to the street line than the greater of the minimum required front yard setback or the actual front yard setback to the principal building. Properties at 1 Wheat Sheaf Farm Road. For the reasons set forth in the resolution, the application was conditionally granted with our standard conditions, as well as conditions indicating that prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall provide a landscape buffer plan, which shall be satisfactory to Township Engineering Department, and for which the applicant shall produce written confirmation of acceptance from the Condominium Association, shall provide a signed owner's consent form from the township's application packet signed by the president or vice president of the Condo Association, Board of Trustees, certifying that the association has authorized the applicant to make this application and that the association agrees to be bound by the application, the representations made and the decision of the board with respect to same, and also to provide written approval from the Condo Association for the installation of the proposed generator in the same location as approved by the board.
Okay. Board members, any comments? Yes.
No.
Okay. Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
You have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Santiago, roll call, please.
Mr. Goldberg.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Schuster.
Yes.
Ms. Simmons.
Yes.
Mr. Woodruff.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay. Next, we have PA-22-23 Hanover Estates, which I understand is going to be an adjournment request.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman. We're still working a little bit on getting some information, and since we have the other matter that I have tonight, we ask that this be carried to the next available meeting.
When would that be, Ms. Santiago?
May 20th.
20th?
Okay. Do we need any extension on that, Mr. Oler?
So Sonia, where are we on time with them? Do we need an extension?
I would request an extension.
Okay, I'll
Through,
mail it.
through June 30?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank
And
you.
then just for members of the public, with respect to application filed by Hanover Estates for property at 245, 251 East Hanover Avenue, that application is not being heard this evening. It instead will be heard on May 20th at 7 p.m. in this room, and there'll be no further notices from the applicant.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have BA-01-24. Ms. Santiago.
CAO 124 Morgan Stanley, care of Alliance for Success. Block 6101, lot 5, 340 McKimball Avenue in the OL 40 zone for, I have section C, D, for section C. Applicant proposes 2 buildings / facade mounted sign, 1 building identification sign, and one building entrance identification sign.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Joshua Kudre, appearing from the law firm of Sills, Cummis and Gross, on behalf of the applicant Morgan Stanley, which is care of Signs of Success for this application. As Ms. Santiago noted at the outset, the subject property is located at 340 Mount Kimball Ave and identified as Block 4101, Lot 5, and it is located in the OL 40 zone. Mr. Chairman, I'm cognizant that the board does have a full agenda this evening, and given the straightforward nature of the application, I'll be brief in my opening remarks, but I did just want to remind the board and for the benefit of the public that the subject site is improved with a multi-tenant office building that was previously approved by this board. As Ms. Santiago noted at the outset again, we are proposing the installation of 2 Morgan Stanley facade-mounted signs, and there are no modifications to the previously approved site plan, building footprint, parking supply, circulation plan, et cetera, strictly limited to the facade-mounted signs. This board is retaining jurisdiction over this application because the original application actually granted D variance relief. So just consistent with past practice, that's why we're before the board this evening. I just want to note for the record that we are in receipt of the TCC report authored by Mr. Phillips, which is dated 2/28/24. And one of the more important things that I'll draw the board's attention to is that Mr. Phillips notes in the report that the signs that are proposed fully conform with the ordinance, and we do not require any variances for this application. We're also in receipt of the memo from the fire department authored by Chief Nunn, dated February 21st, 2024, letter of no comment. Notice was served and published on March 14th, 2024, and Santiago was provided with an affidavit of proof of service. And Mr. Aller, I think you can confirm the board has jurisdiction.
Yes, the applicant has served his notices timely and proper form and published timely, so the board has jurisdiction.
So Mr. Chairman, I gave an overview, really, that I do have a representative from Signs of Success with me this evening. I'd like to bring him up just briefly to give the board an overview of the plans and then obviously answer any questions from yourselves or the public.
Okay, thank you. So proceed.
Sure. I'd like to call Mr. Carl Kalin, please.
Would you rise again and raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Would you state your full name for the record, please?
Carl J. Kalin,
And would you spell your last name, please?
Kaelin.
Thank you.
So Mr. Kalin, you heard me introduce you. You're a project manager with Signs of Success. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And how long approximately have you been in the field of this industry?
I've been in the industry for about 30 years.
And I don't think you've ever appeared before this board, but you have appeared before other boards in the state of New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, et cetera, right?
I have.
You've been accepted as an area in this field of expertise?
I am.
Okay. And you're familiar, obviously, with the plans that were presented to the board this
I
evening?
am.
Okay. If you could just briefly, in light of what I said early at the beginning of my opening remarks, can you just give the board an overview of what's being proposed, the signage materials, illumination, et cetera?
We have 2 facade signs that are currently being proposed. One that's going to be mounted on the parking lot side at the back of the building, or I guess it might be the front of the building, but it's the parking lot side of the building. It's a set of internally illuminated channel letters. Channel letters are made out of aluminum construction with an acrylic base illuminated with LEDs. The size that we're showing on the drawings was dictated by the landlord for cap height for what we were allowed for Morgan, the M and Morgan of Morgan and Stanley. That's the one that's up on the top facade of the building. Then there's a lower secondary sign down by the main entrance, which is an aluminum box with routed and backed up copy, internally illuminated as well. That says Morgan Stanley. Again, size was dictated by the landlord. Those are the only two signs we're asking for relief on.
Mr. Kalen, you're familiar with the site. It's fair to say that, in your professional opinion, the signs may be a little bit undersized for the building, but you've reviewed the ordinances and you can confirm that we do fully comply,
Yes,
correct?
We're within compliance. I mean, for a 3-story building and a 12-inch character on a 3-story building, probably small. But to stay within compliance, Morgan Stanley was willing to go with the smaller letters.
Mr. Chairman, that's all I have on direct.
All right, you say it's LED lighting. Will that lighting have any effect on any of the neighboring properties?
No, the nice thing about LEDs is they're dark sky compliant, so they create a lot of light pollution. Like if you think of the old parking lot lights where you saw the light fixture that was this big and you saw the light ring around it that was this big. They were high intensity discharge, be it high pressure sodium, metal halide, lamps of that type. LED illumination is more direct, so it's really only lighting the face. We did a study on what they were, and I think they came out to, just give me a second here because I think I had the lumens. I printed out on it before I came. But LEDs are very dark sky compliant. They get rid of the light pollution. They're energy efficient, so you don't have the problems you had with neon and some of the other previous ways of illuminating a sign. The total sign is only 1,300 lumens for Morgan Stanley, which is fairly not really bright considering it's 3 stories in the air.
That will have no effect on any neighboring property.
No whatsoever.
To your
Mr. Chairman, the signs are also internal to the corporate office park.
Right.
And there's an office building basically across the
Right.
street. And the
Right.
signs would not impact,
So-
the closest residential was on the other side of the building.
Correct. It faces the parking lot. There's a building
Right.
on the side of the parking lot.
Just want to be confirmed. Board members, any other questions? None? Any members of the public with any questions of this witness? Seeing none, close the public portion. Board members, any comments? Feel this application conforms with the ordinance, lighting will not affect anybody, and I'd be in favor.
There's no variances required.
No, they're here to amend the site plan to permit the signs, and it's only here because there was previously a FAR variance on this site, so the board retains jurisdiction over the site now.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may shortcut things, I move that we vote to approve.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Santiago?
Mr. Goldberg,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Ms. Simmons,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Whitford.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
We're all that easy.
Yeah.
Good night.
Have a good one.
Good night.
We're gonna do that.
Yes. Next, we're going to do BA-02-24, Block 3806, Lot 26. Ms. Santiago. Yeah, we're just skipping down to the signs here.
AO 224 Brian Lantasio. Block 3806, Lot 26, Point Ferndale Avenue in the RA 15 zone for section C. Applicant proposes 157 square foot addition to existing garage, creating a front yard on Dwyer Lane of 6.6 feet where 50 feet is required, a rear yard setback of 0.2 feet and encroaching 5.5 feet over the property line where 25 feet.
I think you're
Oh, I'm reading the wrong one. Sorry.
I'm reading
Excuse
it.
me. Sorry.
Now I understand the look on your face.
I'm like, Dwyer? I don't remember it being on Dwyer.
Sorry, sorry about that. Block 3806, Block 2620 Ferndale Avenue in the RA 15 zone section. Applicant proposed a construction of 2 additions to the rear of the house, creating a side yard setback of 9.9 feet where 20 feet is required, and a combined side yard setback of 19.9 feet where 50 feet is required. Applicant will also seek a variance relief for the expansion of a non-conforming structure.
Do you have anyone else who's going to testify or just you?
No, just me.
Okay, would you stand, please? Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. And just for the record, state your name, please.
Brian Latanzio.
Thank you. You can sit. Thanks.
So just before you start your presentation, I understand this is a 50-foot wide lot.
Correct.
And the setback lines, if you comply with the zoning ordinance, would be a 50-foot side yard.
Correct.
And the project you're proposing would move one side yard from a 10-foot side yard to a 9.9-foot side yard. Is that in a nutshell?
Essentially, I believe it's a 9.9 to a 9.8, just given the slight angle that the house is built on in
Okay.
1925.
So you may proceed.
Well, you also have combined side yards because of the location of the existing garage and
Right.
deck, right? So, yeah.
But
Okay.
those aren't changing. You're not.
No,
yeah.
no, those structures aren't changing, but it is the combined side yard
Right.
number comes off of that.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
you.
So my name is Brian Latanzio, homeowner at 20 Ferndale. My wife and Betsy and I are lifelong residents of Morris County. Betsy's a Morris High School graduate. We met in Morristown. We're married at Assumption Church. We love the town. We love our Burnham Park neighborhood and our home on Ferndale Ave. We actually bought there with the intention of raising our family here in Morris Township. Our first son, Owen, was born last September, and we're in need of a bit more space. We were hoping to expand the first to accommodate our growing family. Specifically, we're hoping to enclose the back notches located off either side of our home to create more kitchen space. Our current kitchen has seating for two. Our pantry is located in a coat closet across the adjacent room, and the niche for our refrigerator is tucked away down the hall. We've done some preliminary work with an architect and engineer to make more efficient use of our first floor space, and we're here this evening seeking permission to expand and relocate our kitchen. Our property is located in an RA15 zone that requires a minimum lot size of 15,000 square feet. Our lot is only 9,162 square feet. As you noted, the RA zone requires a minimum lot width of 100 feet. Our property is only 50 feet wide. Our lot is considered an existing non-conforming lot. It is undersized and not as wide as zoning requires. This presents a hardship. The RA15 zone is a maximum building coverage of 20%. The current conditions are at 24.9%. We are proposing a modest increase of 159 square feet, which will increase the coverage to 26.7%. If the property was a conforming lot of 15,000 square feet, we would be allowed a total of 3,000 square feet, which we are still well below. The proposed side yard variances, we're seeking relief from are 20-foot side yard setback and 50-foot combined setback. This is already a non-conforming condition. We are only proposing to square off the back of the house. However, because the house is slightly skewed on one side, this decreases the setback from 9.9 feet to 9.8 feet, which is a minor and de minimis change. In other words, we're not expecting any exterior wall to be materially closer to any neighbor than it already is, nor are we planning to increase the height of our structure. The house is not exceptionally wide, nor is it increasing in width. Our lot is just narrow. If the lot was 100 feet wide and the house was situated in the middle of the lot, it would conform with the setback requirements. We appreciate your consideration of this matter. Thank you.
Board members, any questions? Members of the public, any questions regarding this application? I noted that the de minimis change in the side yard over the house. I'd be in favor of approving this motion. Any other comments?
No.
I have a motion there.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Santiago?
Mr. Goldberg,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Ms. Simmons,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Woodford.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll have a resolution at the next meeting, and then after that, you can submit to Dave and for billing permits. Okay. You gonna jump to your end then, or you just want-
That's good viewing. I don't know if this one might be better. Okay, next one is BA-17-23, block 6503, lot 54, 40 Springbrook Road. Okay, you're,
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, this is BA-17-23, Michael Ewing. Block 6503, Lot 54, 40 Springbrook Road. RA 15 Zone 4, Section C. This is a continuation from December 11th of 2023 public hearing. Applicant proposes construction of a two-story addition creating a side yard setback on the right side of 8.7 feet and on the left side yard of 5 feet where 20 feet is required, creating a combined side yard setback of 13.7 feet where 50 feet is required. Applicant will also seek a variance relief for an 8-foot fence where 6 foot is allowed, a building height of 39.26 feet where 35 feet is required, and a building coverage of 21.57% where 20% is allowed.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. If I can, I'll kind of back us up a little bit. First, for the record, David Brady of the firm of Brady and Coriel on behalf of the applicant, Michael Ewing, 40 Springbrook Road. We started back in December, went through Mr. Ewing's testimony and Mr. Dorn's testimony. Then we went back and we revised the plans some. We submitted revised plans earlier this month. If I can, I'll go down some of the revisions that we've made, kind of going around the property in a clockwise motion. The existing garage, we had proposed to expand it. As you recall, we had testimony about how difficult it was to get into that garage. It's 17.78 feet from the side yard now, and we're proposing 14. That hasn't changed. Going further back, we're going to propose carriage/pool house. That was proposed to be at 5 feet from the property line. We went back and made some significant revisions, even going so far as to rotate the axis of the pool house.
Recording in progress.
With a DJ.
So
Right now.
Okay.
We'll say it a
got it
couple.
now?
This is good.
Okay, good. We rotated the axis of the pool house and we moved it, instead of being 5 feet off the property line, we're just over 14 feet. Going further around to the covered veranda, we moved that further away from the right-hand property line. We were at 17.2 feet. We're now at 20.8, which is compliant. The office, we were at 8.7 feet. It's gone up just a little bit to 9 feet. Both side yards are supposed to total 50 feet. They're at 33.7 now. We had proposed 13.7, and now with the revisions, we're at 23 feet. As I said, the covered terrace, we've changed that, tightened it up so it's now compliant with the side yards. Building coverage, we exceeded that originally in our proposal. We were at 21.57, where 20% is permitted. We are at 20% now. We had sought a variance for the maximum height of a wall plus a fence on top of it. But in going through the ordinance in Morris Township, 95-36 capital D1H says that you don't count that fence if it's less than 25% solid and equal to or less than 3.5 feet. And we've revised the type of fence we're going to use from a picket to one of these cable fences. So it's less than 25% solid. So that variance has been obviated. Tonight, I have Kathy Muller, who's our professional engineer, Peter Dorn, the architect, Celia DeHuff, who is a landscape architect, and we will have a landscape plan to put into evidence, and Mr. Tobia, our professional planner. Okay, and Ms. Muller would start with.
Good evening.
Hi, would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. Would you state your full name for the record, please?
Catherine with a C, Muller, Mueller.
Thank you. Hey, Dave, before you start, I just wanted to point out, as you can see, we have 6 members here this evening. And so if you were to conclude this evening, if you wanted to put that off until a 7th member could read the transcript,
Okay,
you could do that.
thanks for the heads
Okay.
up.
Yep.
Kathy, if you could give the board.
You can be
the
seated,
benefit
too, you don't
of
have
your
to stand.
professional, educational and professional background, please.
Sure. I have a bachelor's of science in civil and environmental engineering from Clarkson University. I'm a registered professional engineer in the state of New Jersey since 2003. My license is in good standing. I've been in front of this board before and numerous other boards across my career. I'm the principal and owner of the firm Page Muller Engineering, located in Warren Township, New Jersey.
Mr. Chairman, I ask that you be accepted as an expert in civil engineering.
So, any objection from any board member? Is accepted.
Thank you.
Do you want this up there?
Yeah, I'd like to zoom in. Can I zoom in a little bit?
Yeah, sure can. So let me just give you this.
Thank you. So what we have on the screen right now is the lot development plan, page 2 of 2. This was revised March 4th of this year and submitted as part of our application. I'm also going to describe the lot in the similar way as Mr. Brady. I'm going to go clockwise from the front. The existing conditions of the lot, it contains a single-family home. It slopes from Springbrook down to the rear. North is towards Springbrook, the left side is the east side, and the right side is the west side. We're continuing those drainage patterns, but I'll start with the front. It has a slightly undersized front yard setback. That is going to remain at 49.89. We have an addition on the front, which we've termed the C addition for a covered porch. That falls behind the plane of the existing house. We've done some grading improvements on the front yard. It's a downhill lot, and presently it's poorly graded, so it actually slopes towards the house and then to the sides. So what we've done is, you'll see the grading, we've created a low point to alleviate that problem of the water hitting the house. And I'll go down the left side for the driveway. What we've done for the revisions is we've pulled the driveway closer to the location where it is now. Before, we had it closer to that eastern property line. What that enables us to do is to put in a smaller wall. Previously, we had as tall as a 6-foot wall with a 3-foot fence on top for a total of 9. So the wall that's there now, the outer wall adjacent to the property line, starts at 0.8 feet, increases by 1 course and 1 course. And right where the 2 walls split, there's a small area that's 4 feet tall. That's the only point where it's 4 feet. The height of the wall adjacent to the property line then decreases to 3 feet, which wraps around to the side of the building addition A. And again, with the relocated driveway,
we're able to tier this wall, and at the 4-foot point, we pull the other wall in, and the interior wall ranges from 0.5 to 1.5 to 3 at the back left corner. We've separated them, the distance for 3 feet and 3 feet, so they don't combine in height. So as you've heard, we no longer, with the opaque or the less than 25% solid fence, we've eliminated the variance that we had before. So before we had a total of 9 feet cumulative, and now we're in compliance with the maximum height of 4.5. What we've done for the grading is we've created a plateau and a courtyard. The existing garage was a rear-loaded garage, and the left, as you're facing the garage doors, left door was very close to the existing house. So the proposed widening of the 2-car existing garage gives 24 feet. They're able to adjust the location of the garage doors for easier access and have a more properly sized garage, and you'll hear more from our architect. We have a central drain here for stormwater management. Under existing condition, there was a drain at the bottom of the driveway in a similar fashion that drained to the back. Proposed addition A, that's, as you've heard, has been reconfigured for a stacked 2-car garage, and that has also been made smaller along with the dining area by 171 feet. Previously, we were at a 5-foot setback. We're proposing 14.25. This is slightly further away than the improved existing garage, which is set at 14. So it's slightly behind when you look down the driveway. We have a retaining wall off the back left of the garage pool house. We did this so that we could put some fill in between the walls and cover up the side a little bit there. And then we have a landscaping plan, which you'll hear more detail. We have a 4-foot compliant, pool compliant fence that runs along the easterly property line. It'll be in front of the proposed wall in the back. I'll come back to that in a second. That is in front of the wall. It's no longer on top of the wall. So you'll have that 4-foot adequate buffer all the way around the backyard. And we tie it in to the proposed building addition D on the right side. So the whole backyard will be enclosed with pool compliant fence. The retaining wall in the back, we've now proposed that to be a maximum of 2 foot high. We've used some of the slope and the grade. When we redid the backyard, we lowered the pool so that that wall is less severe. And again, only 2 feet high at the back left corner. The proposed pool remains basically the same. That's at compliant setbacks, 20 feet on the right and greater than 25 feet in the rear. As I come around the right side or the west side of the property, we've also brought in the veranda, the measurement to the covered veranda or terrace, and the chimney. That was 17.2 feet. Now the measurement to the chimney is 20.8 feet. So we've brought that in. And along with that, we've brought in the landscaping hardscape, which doesn't count as building coverage, but that was able to be pulled away from the property line as well. These stairs are not going to be exposed. They're actually cutting down along with the grade. So the stairs are lower than those walls. They won't be visible. They'll be below grade. And to the right side of those stairs, you'll see we have some grading. The neighbor to the right, their water comes across the backyard through our backyard to the back left corner. So to not impede that, we've put in a swale. So it'll still continue onto this property and be conveyed to the back in the direction that it was going before the improvements. The covered terrace was brought in. That was made 141 square feet smaller. And the uncovered terrace was also made smaller by 57 square feet. And then we have the proposed addition D, which remains very similar to what we had before. So all in all, the impervious coverage on the site was reduced by 538 square feet. And the building coverage, 458 square feet less impervious, and 313 square feet less building coverage. We were complying with impervious coverage before, but now we're proposing less, and the building coverage was brought into compliance at 20%. For stormwater management, we have a very similar system that was proposed before. We have a series of dry wells in the back. We've taken the net increase in impervious coverage, which is slightly over 3,000, it's 3,096 square feet. And we've sized the dry wells for a volume of 3 inches over that increase. So that will be all before it overflows towards the back. So again, the general drainage patterns were from the front right to the back rear of the lot, and we're not changing that. From a point of analysis, it all still goes to that southern boundary. The building height was recalculated. We did the average around the building within 20 feet, and we measured it to the highest ridge. There's a couple different ways. This is a conservative way. We took the average all the way around to the highest point, and the height is still compliant at 33.6 feet. That details in the upper right corner of the property. There's also a provision for a maximum height from the lowest to the highest when you're not averaging around, and we are compliant with that as well. Allowable is 46.67, and we're at 40.5. So that's the lowest, which would be in the back left, up to the highest ridge, which is the main house, not the additions. And I think that's kind of explains the dimensions of the property and the stormwater.
Looking at the courtyard between the two driveways, have you looked at that in terms of whether vehicles can back out of those garages and make appropriate turning maneuvers?
Yes, so one benefit with the tiered walls and where the driveway is, we were able to make it a total of 33 feet wide, where right now it's about a little under 30, which is tight. So a car can come in, make a right-hand turn towards the main house, back up, and enter either of the rear-loaded garages. And then to leave, they would back out and have a very simple movement to leave the property. And then with the new garage towards the back, it would be in the inverse. They would have a very easy access to the door. And when they backed out, they would have plenty of width to turn around and make a K-turn out. Just by comparison, when we do a side-loaded garage, just on a typical house, we try and keep the apron between 30 and 35 feet deep from the face of the doors, and this is at 33. So it's adequate to turn the car around and make those movements in and out.
I think we've covered everything, Mr. Chairman.
Board members, questions? Over.
Yeah, just one question on the swale that you mentioned. If you could just elaborate as the part of that, how that's implemented as part of the stormwater management plan. Just curious if the creation of that swale will, coming from the top right down to the bottom left, will create any sort of a mini river or more flow that's visible or any sort of potential issues?
So there was actually a slight swale there before. So now we're just making it a little bit more defined along the side of the hardscape stairs. It'll come along the back as it did before. This topo line directed it slightly to the east, and then it will sheet flow before it leaves the property. The rear 20 feet of the property is an existing, well, there's a 15-foot sanitary easement, which is 10 feet off the back. We're not regrading in there. All of our improvements are outside of it. The fence is proposed to follow the property line, but once the water comes down this right side,
Mhm.
it'll sheet flow and it'll dissipate before it leaves the back. This whole easement area is fairly flat. So yes, it does pitch to the back, and then the contours wrap around on the left side, which then takes some of the water to the east side of the property.
Okay, thank you for elaborating.
Any other questions from board members? When you say sheet flow, for the benefit of the public, could you explain that?
So in the swale, it's going to collect the water in the lawn.
Right.
It's not a pipe. We're not doing a pipe discharge. But as the swale goes towards the back, the water will start to fan out. It won't take a direct route. Water will then start to what we call sheet flow. So instead of having a concentrated swale, when it discharges at the end, it'll start to spread out. Like if you were holding a garden hose and you left it on your driveway, you'll see a triangle start to form as the water runs downhill. So we have that 25-foot buffer, which the water will then start to slow down across the lawn. It's fairly flat, and it will disperse as it goes towards the back.
And Mr. Chair, so you're not expecting it to impact lot 24 on Windsor Lane at all?
No. So if you actually look at some of the contours, they're flat across the back. There's a slight pitch to the left. And when we looked at this, we'll take the neighbor's water down that right side. Then the rest of the water from the improvements will be detained in the dry wells, and that'll be discharged straight towards the back, and that'll split to the east and to the west due to that existing contour. So under existing conditions, basically everything from the garage to the right went straight back, and then the rest started to move to the left.
Any other board members with questions? Members of the public, any questions?
Mr. Chairman here.
Yes, please.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is John Urson, the law firm of Schenck Price. I represent one of the adjacent neighbors, Margaret Sellers. So I have some questions for the engineer. Ms. Muller, this property, as it currently exists, does not comply with the township's zoning code, correct?
That's correct.
And the proposal that's here tonight makes a number of the variances and non-compliance, makes them worse, correct?
That's correct.
And for example, the side yard setback on the one side that used to be nearly 18 feet is being reduced to 14 feet. That's addition B.
That's correct.
And the addition D is reducing the existing from 15.44 to 9. That's correct?
That's correct.
And the minimum side yard combined is being reduced, what is currently a variance situation of 33.22, where 50 is required, and you're proposing to reduce it to 23. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And all of these increases in variance, increases in the encroachment into the setbacks protecting the neighbors, they're all caused by the size of proposed addition. Is that correct?
The building coverage and the impervious coverage for the lot are complying.
It's going to be easier if you just answer my question. If the size of the buildings is what's causing the encroachment into the side yard towards the neighbors, correct?
I would classify it, it's more of a planning question, maybe the location, but again, the size for the building coverage and the impervious are compliant.
Addition A is getting bigger and it's encroaching further into the neighbor's setback, correct?
That's correct.
And I don't want to waste the board's time, but I'll ask you the same questions with addition B and addition D and the total side yard. It's because of the size of the buildings, of the setbacks that I am referencing, that you're encroaching into the neighbor's setbacks.
Again, I would take it more of a location and possibly the shape that is encroaching and that are causing the increased side yard variance.
Okay. How about if I ask it the other way? If you made addition A smaller, it would encroach less.
Again, I could keep it the same size and possibly relocate it.
That's good to know, thank you. Addition B, if you made it smaller, it would not encroach as much into the side yard.
Well, the one thing that I didn't touch on, and you will hear more from our architect, is the addition B actually removing an encroachment that's there now.
It's increasing the encroachment into the side yard closer to the neighbor's house from almost 18 feet to 14 feet.
Correct. And we've
And-
noted
and
the side
while
yard
we're talking
setback.
about addition D, just so the board has some scope of the size of the variance required here, Morris Township requires 20 feet side yard, and addition D, you're offering the board less than half of that, is that correct?
Correct, we're at 9 feet.
And minimum side yard both, which is the combined, Morris Township requires 50 feet, and you're offering 23 feet.
That's correct. And the existing house is deficient on total side yard setback under existing conditions.
Okay, that's also helpful. Did Mr. Ewing consult you as an engineer when he purchased the house?
He did not.
If he had consulted you as an engineer, would you have advised him that this was a good house and a good lot with the existing zoning requirements to increase the footprint of the structure to 1,500 feet?
I think that's an opinion outside of my engineering profession.
So you're an engineer, you review zoning ordinances, correct?
That's correct.
And you advise people who buy houses or are going to build houses as to how to comply with zoning.
Typically not to buy houses, but to build houses, yes.
And if someone came to you and said that they were buying a house that was already significantly encroaching into the side yards, and their plan was to increase the surface area, the square foot surface area footprint of the house by 1,500 square feet, so that there would be less than half compliance with the side yard variances, would you tell them that that was a good plan?
Well, again, I think I would be stepping over my license and giving some planning testimony in terms of that. I think the fact that we comply with building coverage and impervious coverage, it's a narrow lot. So again, from a engineering standpoint, I can't give a true opinion on that. I think it's more of a planning defense.
Okay, so your observation as a professional engineer was that this was a narrow lot. So is this lot that if you had a blank slate in front of you, you would recommend to the owner to make the house wider on both sides?
I would look at the neighborhood. Obviously, we're at the Board of Adjustment to ask for some exceptions to the regulations.
And in the drawings and the zoning chart that you've provided, just the building structures itself, you're getting 1,209 feet of new footprint just from the proposed building addition. Is that correct?
We're proposing for the building coverage 4,000, existing is 2,245.
I know, but I'm not, this isn't a trick question. I'm going by your currently proposed lot coverage chart that's on your chart. And I'm just trying to point out to the board that this isn't one thing. It's actually a list of things. I'm sorry, this chart here.
Correct.
Okay.
I guess I'm not understanding the question.
Well, you have listed on your chart, proposed main building addition, and that's going to be 1,209 square feet of new building footprint for that line item, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then you also list proposed office building addition, and that's getting 212 feet of new building footprint.
That's correct.
And then you list the garage, 78 feet of new building footprint. And then your list goes on, and I'm sure the board members can look at it for the various other things that are going on in the yard. But just in building footprint alone, that's over 1,500 square feet of new building footprint.
That's correct.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have any further questions. There may be other neighbors who could.
Okay, any other members of the public with questions? Ms. Nugent, your name for the record.
Leanne Nugent, and at 38 Springbrook Road, adjacent on the right side.
Thank you.
You had a question about the height of the building and the allowances in our township due to some questions we had when we did our renovation. The ground floor of addition A to go from the ground floor of the main house that's there right now goes down 7 risers to go from one level to the other. My question is then, doesn't this make this a 3.5-story home instead of a 3-story home? And my
Let her answer one question.
A building addition A, the main floor matches the first floor of the existing house, and our architect can expand on that. In terms of measuring the number of stories, building code typically takes the average grade. We did not do this calculation, but it looks at the volume of your lowest level that's above grade. So the existing basement under the existing house would not count towards, it would not be considered above grade. So although the back is, lower, as you had pointed out, it's like a typical walkout basement situation.
I guess maybe then that's my question for the town. My answer is with a walkout basement that's now at a lower grade than the basement of the main home.
Right.
So my understanding is that our town ordinance was 3 stories. This makes this 3.5 stories because you're 7 rises low.
Mr. Oliver is pulling up the ordinance now.
I'm just going to look at the definition of story. So the definition in the ordinance for story is that portion of a building included between the surface of any floor and the surface of the floor next above it, or if there be no floor above it, then the space between the floor and the ceiling next above it. That's a story.
Good story.
So how many floors are there?
So there's the walkout basement level,
Mhm.
the main level, and the second story. So when we get to the new architecturals, it may be clearer that
Mhm.
this isn't a second basement.
So you have right, I think the question is, when you walk out the back out the walkout basement, and you go over to addition A, you can walk right into addition A from there. Is that correct? You're not going down another flight of stairs to get to the basement of A.
Correct. And
You're
again,
right at the ground. You're at the first floor of addition A, basically.
the first floors are matching. And
First
then,
floor is at the same height.
yes, but I really would like to defer to the architect if there's any internal stairs. I wouldn't know between the first floors.
Okay. If you're looking at the building from the outside, does the proposed A, is more of that visible below what you call the first floor than at the house?
Yes, it's essentially a walkout basement out the back under addition A.
Okay. So
So the
I think
first,
what Ms. Nugent is saying is if you walk out in the back and then you're walking over to the addition A, you're basically having a three-story house. Is that what you're trying to say?
Actually, 3.5.
What? Let me ask you another question along that line. When you said that the maximum building height from lowest grade at building, where was that measurement taken at?
that'd be the behind addition A.
Okay, and that goes up to the roof of addition A?
No, the highest ridge out of the whole proposed, which would be the ridge on the existing dwelling, which is going up.
So it's
So
39 feet from the back of the ground behind building A to the height of the present roof line.
That's correct. So at the back left corner, we have an elevation of 84.7. And the proposed ridge of the main house up front, which is the highest ridge proposed for the whole project, of 125.16, yields a difference of 40.5. That is the numbers on the right side, the second or third set of calculations under the building height detail.
And how far off the rear of from the addition A is that measurement taken? Is it taken right at the base of addition A, or is it like 3 feet out or something?
It's the average within 20 feet.
Okay, and did you go on to the neighboring property to get that average?
We have topo lines on the left. You'll see we have some elevations that overlap,
Right,
and we use that to do the average of existing and proposed.
but did you run those lines out onto the neighbor's property for the average of 20 feet out?
Yes, so there's a dotted line beyond the improvements
Right.
in
I
the
see
building
that.
height. And then if you come over to the left side, you'll see we have topographic information within that 20 feet.
Okay. All right. You have further questions?
Yes, and about the maximum height. Is that, I had a hard time following the plans. There's changes in units from inches to feet. And so I was trying to calculate the height on my own. Another question about, regardless of units and how it's noted, is that measurement supposed to also include the chimney? Because that doesn't seem to be taken into account, the new chimney that is being put in.
Dave, chimneys are excluded in the definition, right?
Okay, that's
Yeah.
what and then it'll be more of a question to Mr. Dorn, because I can't follow with the units and how everything is added up. And I have to figure out, oh, well, this is inches, this is feet, trying to calculate that maximum height on my own.
Would you like,
That'll be later.
would you like Ms. Mulder to go through how the calculation is done?
Sure, why don't
Do we have to go to the back elevation?
Right, all of my plans are in feet, but due to elevation. So on the engineering plans, there's no inches. So what we do is we work with Mr. Dorn's office and get those dimensions either from floor to floor or floor to ridge. And then we convert it into elevations, which are all feet. Mhm.
I was trying to follow Mr. Dorn.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Any other members of the public with questions of this witness? If so, please come up to the microphone.
Bill Mulcahy, 35 Springbrook Road, North Township, across the street from the Nugents and new construction,
What's the address?
35 Springbrook.
Okay, what's your question?
My question is, if you're Maggie on one side of this proposed structure, and you're Leanne, Tony on the other side, and you're in your house on any given night, what are you looking at when you look to your right or to your left? I mean, if this house is all lit up, is it, I think it's a beautiful house, by the way. I think the plans before this. But, and I didn't see the most recent plans, but when I looked at the first plan, I got the sense that you had like Star Wars landing in the neighborhood all of a sudden. Like, I just thought,
This is a time for asking questions, not, you can testify later on, but right now it's asking
Okay.
questions.
okay, well, what will it look like if this house is lit up? That you have a structure that is just dominating people on both sides of you? That's my question.
Maybe that's more a question for the architect, Mr. Chairman, than
Or the planner, or both.
maybe.
You understand what? They're gonna have the architect come back up and testify, and then they have what's called a professional planner, who will testify as to how this plan blends in with the neighborhood and why the variance should be granted. So that's maybe when you want to ask the question.
Okay,
All right?
sorry about that.
No, not a problem. Any other questions?
No, that's good.
Any other questions from members of the public? Please come up to the microphone. Ma'am,
My name is Joan Ferrari. I live at 6 Spring Hill Lane, which is also in Spring. I have a question about the pool house. What's the square footage of that?
It's an architect question.
I don't have the exact dimension. I'll have to defer to the architect for the exact dimensions.
And because my next question was, what's the definition of a residential building? What does a residential building contain? What's the stuff? Is there a limit on the square footage?
Well, some towns try and limit square footage or size of homes by having FAR ordinances. Morris Township doesn't have an FAR, a floor area ratio ordinance. So, and it's not inappropriate to have a pool house connected as part of your residential home.
And what's the definition of pool house?
There probably isn't one. Yeah,
When it comes to coverage, is the pool included-
I'm sorry.
is the pool included in the coverage of the property?
Yes.
Sure.
And what is considered as the percentage of coverage?
For maximum impervious, which includes all improvements down to the AC pads, the pool water surface, is 42.24%.
And what's the max?
45%.
That includes driveways, buildings,
Everything.
With the walls. Are walls going to be all the way around? Will this property basically be enclosed in walls?
No. So on the left side, we have a tiered wall, which will hold up the driveway.
But that's it.
That's correct. That's for the length of the driveway to the building addition A. We have a small wing wall, more decorative, and again, to lessen the view from the west side on the back. That's maximum of 3 feet. And then we have a small 2-foot maximum along, halfway along the left and along the back And that's to create a level plateau adjacent to the pool for usable area. And that's more, we put that in for the grade due to the easement in the back, so that we didn't encroach in the easement that's there.
But does it screen any part of the adjacent property?
Well, we were able to tier the walls. We pulled the driveway back to closer to the existing location as you enter and pass the existing house. And we have a landscape architect here that enabled us to put a planting shelf in between the two walls to soften the look versus the 6-foot wall that we had before.
Well, I'm not as concerned about what it looks like from the subject property. I'm asking, do the walls look, when you look at the property where the walls are all put up, is it like an encampment, and from the other properties, you see walls all the way around it?
No, as I said, with the revisions that we did this time, we've kept them quite modest, and we'll have landscape testimony to show what we've done with the walls that we have.
There's still walls.
Correct.
It doesn't matter how high they are, there's still a wall. Let's see. I think those basically are my, the dry wells. Where were they? I couldn't see that.
They're in the back left corner, where I'm circling it up on the screen. We have 4 tanks proposed.
And why are they there? If you've got the swale.
Well, it's a lawn area. I could put them under the driveway, but we prefer not to, just because in their traffic loading. They'll be in the lawn area and underneath. They won't be visible from the surface. That's correct. We looked at the increase in impervious coverage, and we sized it for 3 inches of rain over the increase. So it's a volume calculation. It's consistent with what the township requires.
But the swale is not involved.
No, that's just to ensure that we're not blocking. If the neighbor was draining onto us, is the case in this application, we cannot impede their water. We can't put a berm there and not allow the water. So we accounted for that, and what we're doing is it's not a structural element, it's just a grading element to keep the water going in the same direction that it is today.
So the swale does not have a well connected to it, or anything capacity for the water coming off of the swale to be collected?
No, it's just directing the water that exists today. There's no increase coming from the neighbors. So we're just redirecting the water from the neighbors that come onto the property.
Okay, so the swale is help control the neighbors, not the subject property?
That's correct. So the neighbor to the right is higher and flows towards this property, just as the road steps down. So it's not a structural component. It's not a reduction component. It's just a design component.
Okay. I think that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Ms. Nugent, there was another member of the public wants to ask questions. So before you come back up again, let her ask her questions.
Hi, I'm Gloria Karsten, Gloria Karsten, at 9 Spring Hill Lane. And I'd like to apologize to this group because I'm a little bit naive and I do not exactly know what a pool house is, having never had a pool myself. I'm thinking it's a building that has pool equipment, maybe a powder room, changing areas. Could someone please describe the composition of the pool house?
Well, we'll have our architect come up and he'll explain what's in that.
Well, this is just very basic, high-level information from
Well,
what,
I'd rather have the architect do it because he's familiar with the structure itself, whereas Ms. Muller deals with the engineering of the site.
okay, does it include is it a living structure?
We'll let Mr. Dorn talk.
I think Mr. Oler indicated that there's no legal definition in the ordinance. for pool house.
And I verified there is none, right?
Okay, because I'm pretty sure that you are not allowed to have two living structures within a single property. And if this should be considered a living structure, wouldn't that be an issue?
Well, this is all attached as
This is
one
all
building.
attached. So the issue, the question is if they're detached.
By
would it be a whole
attached by a
different
little faux walkway or,
No, because they have the room going out to the back, the octagonal room, and that connects over to the.
okay, well, there's the letter of the law and there's the intent.
But it's all connected.
Well, there's the letter of the law and the intent of the,
I do have the question. You mentioned
Give your name again.
Leanne Nugent, 38 Springbrook Road, Morris Township. You mentioned that the swell was to compensate for the water runoff from our property to the right. Have you considered how the water runoff is going to be aggravated by all of the expansion and change of levels in the backyard, not just from water runoff from the right?
Yes, we have. We have the dry wells for stormwater management that'll attenuate and hold volume off of the increase in impervious coverage.
But is that a misnomer to say the swale is just for the runoff when you're increasing the levels in the backyard? Then there is more of a gully coming down.
Again, the grading on the right side is just for overland positive drainage. We cannot impede the water that's coming from your property.
I understand
it's
that.
fully contained on our property and conveyed to the rear where it's draining to now. Then with the improvements, we'll have added stormwater runoff and we mitigate that with the dry well systems.
Okay.
Lawn is still running off as lawn. The increased impervious will be collected and reduced.
Another question is, have you considered, instead of putting a whole row of steps that's 13.3 feet from the property line on the right, instead coming off the patio, the covered veranda on the back and going straight back so as not to impede the setback further on the right and be closer to the neighbors, us being them, on the right? Have you considered that?
The hardscape that's proposed is not subject to a setback.
I understand that, but did you consider putting steps straight back so that to not have another?
If we were to move them in the back, they would be more of a structure and above grade. We're coming off at grade on the, I'll say, right side of the terrace, which is a terrace today. And then we're catching the grade
Which is a
down-
terrace that's not as close to the property
we're
line.
catching grade down. So the stairs, the wall on the right, the grade that hits it, the stairs are actually below that. They're not above it. So if we were to start them at a higher grade in the back, you would see more of the stairs because they would be above grade. This, we're working with the terrain on the right side to walk down and around.
And coming closer to the property line. Yes. Yes,
Yes, it'll be constructed on the right side of the terrace.
thank you.
What's the depth of the?
Sorry, but
I'm
give us
sorry.
your name, please.
Sure, Tony Nugent, 38 Springbrook Road.
Thank you.
What's the depth of the wall footings?
That hasn't been determined yet. But for the for the landscape, hardscape wall, it would depend on the type of wall that we chose.
Right, but what about retaining walls and walls along the property?
That's all going to be determined when the type of wall is picked. So
What-
typically, if you have a modular block, it's one block.
So what's another option?
There's port-in-place walls.
So the difference between the two different blocks or whatever, how does that impact with the depth?
Again, it depends on the structural design of the walls, which hasn't been determined yet. They haven't been fully designed yet. We have the heights. The types will be picked out. They'll be submitted as part of the, I'm sure, the building permit with the township and be inspected.
So I guess I ask the board, is there a restriction on that as far as depth?
Not that I'm aware of, Dave. Are you aware of any?
If it's modular block and it's less than 4 feet high, it's considered a landscape structure, and it's whatever the wall designer would pick out, which is usually one block. If it ends up becoming reinforced concrete, you would have to go to the frost line, which is about 40 inches down. A lot of landscapers are using the modular block to forego extensive construction and forgo some of the permitting that's required. I don't know, without seeing the detail on the wall for the stairway going down from the terrace down to the patio at the pool, I don't know what they propose on using for wall construction. It could be modular block, could be concrete. It'll be out of place for the area if it was concrete, but most likely modular block, but it's up to them.
Okay, and that has to be submitted to you, to the
Yeah.
town?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would look at it before it gets submitted over to the building department.
Okay, any other members of the public with questions?
I had a question because this is where I thought he was going, but I want to talk about the other side of the property, that retaining wall. So that's the east side retaining wall. Especially in the area where you're showing it's hatched, where you have a height variance. Or will there be any underground support structures that would go off the property side?
No, these walls are holding up our property versus the inverse. If we were digging in,
Mhm.
there may be some geogrid that goes behind it.
Mhm.
But since we are higher, anything structural would be towards our property.
Okay, and so that can be built without going on the neighbor's property, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other board members with questions of this witness? Okay. Your next witness, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll call Peter Dorn.
Mr. Dorn has been previously accepted as an expert in the field of architecture. Don't have to go through that.
So you do have to stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And just for the record, state your full name, please. Thank you.
Rendering.
Right. All right, first of all, I'd just like to say that any of the questions that any folks have brought up, I'd be happy to answer. They're all very answerable things to deal with. And
Mr. Dorn?
yes.
Excuse me, please try to.
Okay, and I would hope wherever this goes, and hopefully it'll get approved, is that at the end of it, I would like the opportunity to meet, especially with the neighbors, and things like you talked about the walls and material for the walls and planting. You can deal with Celia, come up with a solution that works for everybody. That's all I'll say on that for now.
Peter,
Okay.
why don't we kind of do the same thing that Kathy did on the engineering and go through your plans? And
Okay.
kind of explain where we were and where we are now.
Okay, can we go, yeah, go to that one. Let's go to the first floor. Or look, we could go to the site, I guess. Kathy's site plan.
You want to say that?
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so I don't set out to create things that are just making big for big sake or spreading things out for whatever sake. I always ask
Can everybody in the rear hear him?
I always ask my client for a program, and a program is where they state all the things that is wrong with the house and things that they'd like to do with the house. And then from there, I start to design. The other thing that I always do is I'm always very careful when I enter a site to kind of get a feel for what I think about the property and what I think the possibilities are. So I get a feel about the topography. I have a pretty good understanding. I studied engineering originally at West Point. So I try to get an idea about what the topography is like and what just feels wrong. So the first thing that I noticed when I drove down the lot is that, and I worked on Melissa Corbeau's house, which is across the street years ago. One thing that I always remembered is that there's no off-street parking, and people do sometimes try to park. And it's a terrible thing because cars, it's steep there. And I mean, you could almost push a car over on our side of the street. It dips down. There's kind of a severe topography there. So as I went down the driveway, I kind of said, boy, it would be really nice. And I noticed that the garage floor is about 18 inches down from the house floor. And I said, it would be nice if instead of that long inclined plane, if I could shorten that and bring it up on a plateau. And I thought it would make it feel a whole lot better. And so we started with that. And as it turned out, there's no door between the house and the garage, which is kind of odd because if you have groceries, you have little kids, you're old. I mean, and I deal with my people that are old, people that are young, babies and stuff like that. So I try to take that all into consideration. So I said, it would be great if we could get a door from the house, from the garage to the house. There's no mud room. So I started with that. And I think if you question 100 architects or design professionals or interior designers or anybody, and you said, just throw out a geometry on garages, they would say 24 by 24 because it works. It works really well. This garage is a lot less than that. We added 3.8 feet, I think, to the garage, which made it 24. It's 22 feet deep. It now becomes at least a reasonably wide garage. You can get 2 cars in there. You can get a really nice door that goes into a mud room. It's like a normal house now. And so that's where we came up with moving that. I spoke to Kathy Mueller, and we talked about, well, the driveway is going to be wide enough. And then I spoke to Celia DeHuff about how we could do the wall and the planning so we could take care of the neighbor next door, make sure there's sufficient planting. Celia and I, on a number of projects, have had a similar situation where she really has almost blocked off the side yard with, I'm not a plant guy, but I think they're called arborvitaes, and she'll talk about those. We talked about how we could manipulate the walls, and listen, we really, I've been before this board a number of times, and we listened to what the criticisms were or the concerns were of the first project, and so we came back and I think we eliminated an awful lot of variances. So my feeling was if we were going to expand the garage by 3.8 feet to give us 24, which we did. It also is going to give us a nicer driveway down. It doesn't go down as far. It gives us an area where we can have parking. It can be maneuverable in there. And then Mike had asked about another garage. So before we had two garages, side by side. So I said, well, why don't we just turn it so it's a double stack garage instead of a side by side. And that seemed to make sense because we could then align. I know one of the neighbors had said, well, what do you see when you look down the property? And one of our concerns was that, if you look down at the house, we kept it in a little bit. So you really, it doesn't go out any further than the expanded garage. So I think it's somewhere around 14 feet, somewhat a little bit less than what the garage is. So we were able to get, two garages in there. And I think somebody asked something about making this into a 2-family house. Mike has got children, I think 3, they're about my kids' ages. They're, at between late 20s and 30s, and they have kids, and he wants to enjoy their visiting.
Mr. Dorn, there was some question about whether this is kind of a separate building or a separate residential use on the property. Can you describe how they're connected together and
Yeah.
what the rooms are inside of it?
Well, first of all, absolutely not. They're not 2 separate buildings. They're connected. We really couldn't find a good way to get a 4th bedroom into the house without, finding a different place to put it. So we put it, and again, the kids are older and they have children. So I would think that the children with the most kids, that would be a great place for them to be. It's right off of the dining room, the octagon dining room. It's right pretty close to the kitchen. I mean, you have to come down the stairs, but that, you deal that with stairs in every house almost. So it's connected in the basement. It's connected on the 1st floor. And so it's fully connected. I mean, it's obvious that it's not a separate apartment or a separate house. I'm 72 years old. I've been designing for a while. I know the difference. So when the board had said, we have to start to make some compensations, we got together and we shrunk the octagon, we turned the garage. And then another part of the garage is that originally there was kind of concern about the gable of the house, of the garage, and how it was higher and there was a window up there. So we actually changed the direction of the gable so that the lower part of the roof is facing the neighbor to the east.
Is that depicted on one of the sheets of this?
Yeah, you can see it when we get to the elevations, yeah. And, I mean, we have windows, the fenestration is appropriate for the size of the building, that we didn't put, 30 windows in. We put 3 obviously nicely designed windows in. They work, they'll look really good. Where, everybody has lights. And to the question about, is it going to be Newark Airport? I mean, is any house going to be Newark Airport? These people are going to have the same lights that anybody else has, including the outdoor lights. The outdoor lights are going to be very minimal. There are codes for lights, and that's what we're going to follow. So we shrunk the octagon. We shrunk and changed the geometry of the garage. And the veranda we pulled in, the chimney, I think we lowered down a bit. And so as we come around to the right side of the house, to the neighbor to the west, it's I believe it's 9 feet now, and before it was maybe 12 or 13 feet. But remember, there was where the 3 condensing units are on the plan. There was an addition there that was 199 square feet, and it was like a train car. It was stupid, it was ugly, and it didn't work. So I said to Mike, first of all, I'm concerned a little bit about the big tree that's in the upper right-hand corner. And why don't we, and he saw my office on 109 Washington Street, that I did this really cool little office years ago, and I actually had to go to the Morristown board for approval on that. And he said, yeah, that looks really good. And you could take the little bump out off, but it would ruin the geometry. And that little bump out is where you can have the desk and a chair, and it makes it nice. And it's a really, we have some pictures that we'll hand out of my old building, and it really is a nice little structure to look at. It's transparent and it's kind of beautiful. As far as the stairs going down the back on the right-hand side, if we put them off the back, they would be clunky, and the structure of them would have to be reinforced concrete or structural block. These stairs are sunk into the grade. You're not even going to see them. And whether or not we do a monolithic concrete little footing in there, which would go down to answer, I guess, whoever questioned, about a foot to 18 inches, not much. We can use, there's all kinds of, dry laid block that we can use. But I think, the house is a nice whitewashed brick. Again, if everybody would not be hostile and we could get together and say, hey, you know what, we like the brick and we like it red brick, but we also like it with being whitewashed. Or, we'd like to have something that looks a little bit more like stone, but nothing encroaches into the side yards. No structure does, no anything does. The idea of that we're not creating a compound, we're creating walls where we need them. They're appropriate, they're not high, we don't need a variance for them. They're going to be really, really beautiful. Celia's going to plant them so that we have really great landscaping. It's going to look beautiful. It's not going to look like a compound or anything like that. And then, we came across to the front and we put a little porch on the front. I just didn't, the house doesn't have a little porch, and I thought it would be nice to have a little portico there. So we did that. And yeah, of course we added square footage. It's right there. I don't even know why that's a question, but we're not over the percentage of lot coverage or building coverage. We have really reduced this thing by an awful lot. I hope the board, can see that. The fact that the garage is where it is today, and to make it a two-car garage, yeah, it gets a little closer to the neighbor on the east. Not much you can do about it because it's there. We pushed the back building back so that it's out of the way. So looking at the house from, head on, you don't really, you see the old house, basically, just the house. You don't see the rest of it, although if you go around the corner, obviously you can see to the back. That's where we came up with it. And my mother was Italian. She's dead now, but she was like always, oh, Peter, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? I hate it. I don't want it. After it was done, I couldn't live without it. So I kind of go by that. I try to do things that make the neighbors happy, make my client happy. There's a happy medium. It doesn't have to be adversarial. Doesn't everybody have to fight about it? I don't do that. Architecture is a really cool thing, and we want to make everybody happy. And we listen to everybody. Immediately after the last meeting, we all got together, we sat down, and we said, okay, how are we going to deal with this stuff? And we did.
Peter, you said you shrunk the octagon. How much did you shrink that by?
100 and what?
We brought the entire thing in like 6 inches.
We brought everything in 6 inches, so a foot on each side, and I don't know, probably
And you
60 feet.
rotated the pool house. What did you do with the covered veranda?
We shrunk
the
it.
chimney.
We brought it in so it was compliant, so there's no side yard setback anymore. We made it smaller. So the furniture went from being left and right to front and back. It was not that big a deal to do it. It worked out really well. Mike was really good about listening to us to do that. And there was no argument. Everybody was like, yeah, get on board. Let's make this happen. To the woman, I guess it's Gloria, about the pool house. We call it a pool house. The pool is obviously down there. It's nice to have a powder room there. It's nice to put all the equipment inside so the neighbors next door don't hear filters going, don't hear heaters going. We put it all inside so you don't see it. And
We just switched over on a different slide. Can you tell everybody what's going on the bottom floor there? That's the pool house in the back.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom floor of that pool house.
yeah,
right?
so you walk through the basement to under the octagon. We have to build the structure there anyway. You could just make it block and leave it there, but we thought it'd be nice to put a little table there and the windows in there. And then, yeah, you get a little table with a little sink and a wine cooler and a bathroom, and then the rest is, mechanical.
Those are mechanicals for the pool?
The pool and the house, yeah. Like everybody else's house. They have in the basement, maybe they have the bathroom, maybe they have a table, a little eating area, maybe they have a little billiard table down there. Who knows?
And that's a walkout?
Yeah, and it happens to be walkout because the topography, goes down that way. I mean, we didn't do it because we created the topography. It's there. We worked with the topography and we utilized it as good as we could.
Can we go to the slide that has the first floor then, which is, I guess, explain how that works there, what's going on in the pool house in that.
Well, that's just the garage. That's at the same level as the other garage, and it's 2 cars that go in there, or storage and a car. So it's basically a 3-car garage that the house has.
On the right side of stairs?
Yeah, stairs that go up to the main floor. Yeah.
Then let's go to the next slide, show the next level.
Okay, so here you can see that we have 4 bedrooms. I would think that most of the houses in the neighborhood a normal would be 4 bedrooms. It just so happened that this is the geometry that we had to work with, so we did. It's the same amount of bedrooms that I think almost everybody else would have. It's just that they're configured differently. The front, you can see that the front is almost exactly the same. The roof got a little bit bigger in the main part. We moved the chimney over so it would be centered, looks a lot better. You can see that the terrible little shed on the side looks like whatever.
That's what's there now?
That's what's there now. And then this is the glass structure that we put over here, which would be Mike's office. And then on the left-hand side, we expanded the garage, and instead of putting a big roof on it, what we did is we have a much lower plate and we put dormers in it. So it's a little bit more diverse and it's not as high. So we tried to keep things, feeling like they come down on each side rather than just a big block going across. And I think it looks a heck of a lot better than what's there now. Okay, along this side here.
What side is this first?
This is the westerly side. So
The right side is the face of the house?
yeah, so you can see the terrible little office that Mike has there now is gone, and we opened up the house so that now really that it feels like there's a much better setback because we consolidated the building instead of having it elongated. It's consolidated, and we pushed it back so it wouldn't interfere with the big tree. I'm a tree hugger. I like to keep them if we can. And then the veranda and the chimney, and we pushed everything over And again, Celia will get ivy growing on everything, and it'll look all green and flowery and all that stuff. Okay, so this is a section through the back. Probably be better off to go to the rear elevation. So the rear elevation is the veranda and the garage, the single car garage, and we put a nice little bay window on the a bay entrance on the back. I can't help it. I make things look nice, and you know, why make things look ugly when you can make them look nice? So I put a nice little copper roof on it. The veranda has a really beautiful copper roof. It's all transparent because it's all open, and the little arches down below are set in about 4 feet. It just because it faces south, and it's nice to have a little shaded area in there. I always kind of talk about things like that. If you had a cat or a dog on a really hot day, that dog would want to be in there because it's all shaded.
Yeah, on the right-hand side, what does that show? Is that the front of the garage? 'Cause everything here is the rear of the house. But
Yeah. Okay, so this is a section as well going through, but this is, yeah, so this is the easterly side. And again, we got rid of the dormer, so we don't have a high window up there. And again, I mean, the comment about lights, I mean, Mike is younger than I am. His kids are about the same age as I. They're going to be there infrequently. It's not like he's going to turn on all the lights and have them shining out at everybody. They're appropriate. They're bedrooms. The garage is hardly ever going to be used other than to have a car in there. So those lights are hardly ever going to be on in there. So that's just kind of a crazy thought that he's going to, you know, light it up every night. And then again, Celia's going to landscape that side pretty heavily, and so that'll mitigate any lighting as well. Is that it? Oh yeah. Okay. So we have some renderings for you too.
So actually, Peter, we also had, you said this was, the office was based on your office in Morristown. I thought we had a picture of that.
Do we have those? Yeah.
Oh. See?
Well, we did it the old-fashioned way too. We actually have pictures if we need them.
No, okay. I'm gonna find them for you.
But I mean, this little structure looks really good. I mean, there are so many, you know, a lot of people, they design the front of the house and the rest of it looks like junk. We designed 4 sides of the house. I would like it if my neighbor put that little addition on rather than that junky railroad abomination that's on there now. So, you know, it's just part of Celia's stuff. All right, so yeah, there it is.
You see it?
Yeah, can you get it bigger?
No, it's not loading. Hold on. Let's try the other one.
Is that what's going to be in the pool?
Tomorrow?
Yeah, those are going to be in the pool, right?
You don't want those in your pool.
So there it is.
Okay.
It's in the winter time. It's my old office at 109 Washington Street.
Sorry, Peter, but Dave, do we have this to mark, or we?
Yeah, we
do we have this in an email? I want to
I do not
mark
believe
that.
we have it. It's part of
We brought paper though, if you want it.
Yeah, I'm going to mark one. If you have a hard copy, then that'll be
Can we get
A5.
the other pictures in here?
Which one?
Yeah, we're up to A5. So, Mr. Doran, just for the record, we're going to mark that as A5. Would you tell us what that is, please?
Sure, that's pretty much the same addition that we want to put on.
Yeah, but it's a picture of what?
Oh, it's a picture of my
Your
old
your
office.
office?
It's 109 Washington Street in Morristown. And everybody that goes in there loves it. I can't tell you how many people, have said over the years, they knew my old office was there and they said, oh, we loved it when you built that. It's friendly. It's open. It's like, I don't know why you wouldn't like it. And
That's a different picture, so that's A6.
it's the same building, but, different picture. Yeah. But it's just nice for a lot of different things.
Are you replicating that with the office that's being added on the
Yeah.
right side here?
Yeah. So that, rather than that thing that's on there now.
3.5 foot bump out, right?
Yeah, 3.5 foot bump out. So that's where, to the attorney's thing that he's talking about, yeah, it does make it closer, but it makes it better. Unless you guys don't think it makes it better, and then you're
So
going to vote
just
against
so we're
it.
clear and the public's clear, those two photos, A5, A6, the window configuration is similar to what you're proposing would be used at addition D, right,
Yes,
for the office? Okay,
Mhm.
thanks.
Including the what we call it balustrade on the top?
Yeah. The neighbors objected to the balustrade. We don't do it. It's a really beautiful little hip copper roof up there, standing seam copper roof. And again, I just like, yeah, it doesn't take a genius and a lawyer to tell me that, yeah, we made it closer. Obviously, we made it closer. I can do math. But we think by taking down that shed addition, which is 199 square feet, and adding this at 215 square feet, and moving it back so it's further away from the trees, I'd rather look at that than what's there today. And I'm hard pressed to argue that with anybody. Okay, sorry.
That's right. Are you okay now?
Yeah.
Okay. Renderings?
Yeah, rendering,
The
sure.
renderings? Which one? East side? This one?
Yeah.
Let's see if this works. This thing's
The rendering,
Oh.
you do not have, so it'll be what the mark that.
Print out of this.
You just got this today.
So this is A7. I'll get these all up to you soon.
So this is A7, but just for the record, describe what A7 is, please. Peter?
Oh, yeah, sure. It's a rendering on the east side, depicting, the new garage in the back, the garage in the front, the expansion in the front, the driveway going down. Celia's going to talk about the planting, and this rendering doesn't really do it justice. She's planning on doing a whole lot of plants, trees and plants. I mean, I kill them, she makes them live. So she'll tell you more about how we're going to do that. And we've done it on other projects in different towns, and she can literally do a green wall across there. Okay, that's all I have to say about that.
Peter, does that have the type of fence that we've been talking about, the cable fence?
Yeah, it's just a cable fence. Yeah, Celia will show you a picture of it. And then, I mean, I think you can see that, having that little parking court in there, it really lets you maneuver in there and park cars. Like I said, anybody, I know the one neighbor lives across the street, he said, and you can't park on that street. It's impossible. So
Is there a plan to put landscaping between the new garage and the property line? It looks like here, like there's landscaping along the drive, but it's planned, do you know, or maybe Celia can talk about landscaping down there?
well, you mean against the building?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, she grows, I don't know what the ivy is, but there's one that's really nice looking, and it grows really well in that. So that'll all be green and flowery. And like I said, she plans on doing a lot more than this rendering really quite doesn't do it justice. But
The existing house is a brick, you were talking about.
it's whitewashed
painting it,
brick.
whitewashing it.
It's whitewashed brick.
What is
and
the new garage going to be?
Everything's going to be whitewashed brick.
What about the roof?
Well, it's copper in the back and it's slate, and the rest of it's to match the roof that's there. And you can see that, there's a lot of difference in heights, so it doesn't look like just one big house. It's, and if you're looking at it from the front, you really don't see a lot of the stuff that's in the back. And quite frankly, again, I think it's going to look really nice. It's going to be very friendly. I just hope the neighborhood, after everything's done, is really, I really like it when people actually enjoy it when they're done.
Do we have other renderings from other angles?
But yeah, I think there's another one. Quite frankly, I think the drawing's a lot nicer than the renderings. So this is more of what.
Let's introduce this for a second. So this is.
So we're going to mark this A8, and again, Mr. Dorn, just identify what that is for the record.
That's the easterly, oh no, that's the westerly elevation. And that's the big tree that's there now. And then I think there are arborvitaes, whatever.
Here's the big tree, right?
So point out, if you would, Peter, the office.
The office is right there. You can see the little balustrade up on top and the windows, and there's the chimney over on the side. And remember that the neighbors to the west, their house is a lot higher. So this is kind of looking at it like this, whereas they're kind of looking down on it more. So
And did you point out where the veranda is? Because
yeah, it's right where the chimney is, right?
and so that window that you see kind of right to the right of one of those, I think the cursor is coming down. If you bring it down, please, right around there. Is that part of the? What is that part of? That part of the dining.
That's the dining room. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the octagon dining.
Yeah. I'm just seeing this for the first time, so.
So it's open back to that.
Yeah. And the other thing is, we're going to match everything on the outside. So it's going to look, everything's going to match. It's going to look like it's been there. And after a year and the plantings get put in, they're all going to start to mature. Celia's really good at not putting them in so that there's two rows and they grow well together. They don't, after a while, die because they're too close. And you can see she put the planting and the walkway in the front. So
That's the front where the walkway goes. That's the little porch area.
yeah, it's a little portico. Yeah. I think it's kind of nice to have that if it's a rainy day or something. So anyway, that's it.
Can you go back to the rendering from the west side? Yeah. So that tree that's depicted there,
The big one?
yeah, the tall tree.
Yeah. There are two of them there. There are two big ones.
Well, I see the 26-inch tree that looks like it's located on the adjacent property. And then where is this tree? How far is it from the building? Your proposed addition?
How far is what?
The tree from the proposed addition?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's about 10 feet, 10, 12 feet, right?
According to the Ms. Muller's plan, it looks like it's 12 and a half feet to the property line, and the tree is, that's a perpendicular measurement. The tree is a little forward from that, so.
You say a little forward, because the tree I see on this, on drawing 2 of 2, shows a 26-inch tree that's on the adjacent property.
Right.
So how is arborvitae going to get planted if it's on the adjacent property?
I think they're understory, and I don't, like I said,
They got the rendering.
yeah, they got the renderings wrong. The arborvitae should be on the other side.
Well, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Arborvitae are to the right, and then.
He'll need to testify.
Why don't you have
Yeah.
We'll have the landscape architect.
I'll screw it up, sure as it gets. And they'll probably die in the meantime.
Peter, don't go anywhere.
Why don't we take a 5-minute break and then we'll come back with cross-examination with Mr. Dorn.
Sounds like
So
fun.
adjourn for 5 minutes.
Yes.
Oh.
Mr. Goldberg.
Yes.
Ms. Simmons. Yes. Mr. Schuster.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
Mr. Kramer.
Here.
Mr. Older.
Here.
Mr. Hanson.
Here.
Mr. Woodford.
Here.
And I, Sonia Santiago, here.
And Mr. Phillips is no longer here.
No longer here.
No longer here.
Okay.
Deserted. No, he was only here for the D variance.
I know.
Water.
You do it.
Okay,
We got to,
You know what I noticed on this?
so
why can't we share a screen?
this, start with the proposed office. If we granted this variance for this office, what would prevent somebody on the adjacent property from putting their own office 9 feet off the property line, or putting some other structure 9 feet off the property line, so there'd only be 18 feet?
Well, the answer is that that case then has to be proved.
Right.
This is not necessarily a precedent. We all know it's a Board of Adjustment. Every case stands on its own 2 feet.
Right, but what would we use to justify it if they said, well, it'll look really nice?
Well, the thing is that you already have a structure there on the side.
Right.
So, I mean, your justification, my justification is that there's some really ugly structure there
Right.
that we're going to take off. It's
Right.
199 square feet. We're going to substitute it with a new structure that's slightly bigger. And yeah, it's a little bit closer.
So, Mr. Dorn, following up on that, you've got a nice living room there. We all know that with many people, especially with a house this size, the living room gets walked into about 5 times a year. Why not put the office there? Expand the den.
I mean, it's the living room. He wants a living room.
Well, I'm just saying, he wants the office, he wants the den, he wants the living room.
You know,
You've got to accommodate it, and I was wondering how could you do that with expanding the den and putting the office towards the front right of the house?
to the upper front.
Yes.
Well, again, then it's closer to where the 2 big trees are. So that was part of the reason why I pushed it back. And the other reason is I just think that, let's just say he was going to go ahead and leave the building that was there, which is a terrible geometry. So with that geometry, if you walk in there, you really can't even get a desk in there. So you'd have to cut that whole wall out. But you'd still be stuck with the 199 square feet of a structure there.
Right.
So
I'm saying take that, what you call the ugly structure there, take that off and just work within the main frame of the house. We're putting an office in the front right and expanding it in.
I don't think that would be an appropriate place. Plus, it'd be too big of an office.
Well, you can move, can you move the den wall forward?
No, because there's a wall in between the den and the step-down family room. There's 2 separate places there right now, and they're about somewhat equal size. One is kind of like a family room, and one is like a living room.
I have no problems with the front porch, but that's like a no-brainer.
Okay.
The quote pool house, what kind of ventilation do you need for the mechanics back there?
It's all the heaters and everything. They have their own vent. There's no exhaust. There's no anything. It's just like if you were going to have any of the new hot water heaters. There's no exhaust.
It's all self-contained. So when you say there's no exhaust, explain that for.
There is a vent that comes out.
Right.
But there's no gases emitted. It's the intake and it's the exhaust, and there's no gases really emitted.
There's the intake and then the exhaust. Is it,
It's about this big around.
It's a PVC pipe.
Yeah, it's
and the
PVC.
PVC pipe that goes where?
It can go right out the back and go wherever you want. Go out the roof.
Right. Would it go towards the neighbors? 'Cause
No.
That's the closest thing.
No. I mean, it could, but we're not planning on that. We would run it right out the back or out through the roof.
Are we talking gas powered?
Yeah.
Okay, so there is exhaust. You are putting out some monoxide.
Yeah, but
Okay.
yeah, I mean, if you're putting it outside the back, I mean, there's plenty of space.
I'm just trying to make sure I understand what we're exhausting.
Yeah, it's not like if you had an oil heater and you had all the fumes coming out like that. It's 92 high efficiency. Everything's like that.
Board members, questions?
Yeah, I have a question about the proposed right elevation. You want to bring that up?
Sure.
That stone wall that's visible there by the stairs, that's the foundation, correct?
That's the foundation for the.
So we don't see the retaining wall that would be hiding the stairs. Is that right?
That holds the flower beds right there. There's flower beds to the left and right of the chimney. That wall holds that right there.
Understood. But in the site plan, it shows that there's a retaining wall that's hiding the view of those steps. Isn't that correct?
No, the steps are going to be just like that. They're going to go along the contour of the property.
Retaining wall is not going to be something sticking 2 or 3 or 4 feet out of the ground, right?
No.
Yeah, along that line, Mr. Dorn, we don't have a complete view of the entire outline of what the pool on that right elevation.
Yeah.
We don't have the pool, we don't even have the stairs going all the way down yet, do we?
Yeah, no, the stairs go down to where the pool is. Yeah, they go just right.
But it looks like they go right into the ground.
They kind of do.
It's a section.
Yeah, right there. It's a section showing where the stairs go down.
So the railing will be visible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stairs are in the ground.
Right.
Or sunken, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, we're not changing the topography. We're just going right along with it.
Sorry, I interrupted. Continue.
No, forget it. You ruined my train of thought. No, we're good. Thank you.
Other board members, Goldberg?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just in terms of, I think Ms. Muller had said earlier, they look around the neighborhood at other properties. So you had indicated you had done some work across the street. I've driven up and down the street. I'm not familiar with every lot and implementation along that lines, but in terms of, one of the concerns I have is just in terms of the sort of enormity of it compared to what's around it. Is there any other similar scale type housing that's
I
getting?
think if you went around the neighborhood, there are newer houses that are probably bigger. I don't know that it would be the same geometry because some of those houses were built totally new. I know Jim Mungy's house was built new on the other side of at the other side of Springbrook. And there were other houses there. And that's why we tried to keep everything confined within as much as we could the width of the building that's there, other than the 3.8 feet that we added to the garage. Other than that, I mean, in looking at it, it looks pretty much like the house that's there.
And in terms of the setbacks of it, that's one of my biggest concerns is the proximity to the neighbors. Any examples of, I think this would be, probably the closest in terms of proximity to other residences.
I can't answer that. I didn't do any
Right.
study with that, but again, with the garage, we're stuck with where it is. We didn't make it any bigger than we thought we had to make it. So that was there. On the right-hand side, there's an addition there already. And I was talking to Paul about, we moved it back, we took the shed roof off, and it pushes it, much further back, and it's kind of in a hole too, because the topography drops off pretty severely there.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Dorn, in your opinion, there was testimony about whether or not the stories? Was it 3.5 stories? Was it 2 stories? How do you see it? 2 stories, 3.5, 3?
It's 3 stories. It's the basement level and the first floor and the second floor.
Thank you.
Is there a level under the basement? A half level?
No.
Is there a
No.
mechanical room?
No, the mechanical room is in, well, in the old basement, there's mechanical for the old part of the house.
The pool house itself, what we're calling the ground floor,
Yeah,
there's nothing underneath it.
no.
Okay, not a problem with that.
Let me take a look at the rendering of, I guess it's A1, which is the basement. And can you walk us through those different spaces? There's a sitting room, a covered terrace slab, a terrace slab above. What is being contained in all of those spaces at that lower level?
Well, I mean, first of all, we kind of label things because we did it. I mean, where we have the sitting room, that could just be, because there is a basement there already, we're kind of matching that. I mean, we made it look pretty. I don't know if Mike's going to do anything about it, but, it seemed to be that it might be nice to have a little sitting area there because there's nice light there and there's a door to that, where those 3 arches are. So there's a nice door so you can go either out to shaded area or to sunny area. And then the other, then it just goes into the hallway where the stair goes up. You have all the pool equipment. There's a shower and a bathroom down there and a, place for kids to play cards and, do stuff like that.
So it's not possible to put the office in any one of those other spaces? Just as an example.
No. To answer you honestly, I mean, you could put the office wherever you want, but I didn't like magically say I'm going to put an appendage on the house because if there was nothing there already, I wouldn't have said let's put the office there. I mean, I would have, but I knew that was not going to go anywhere. But what I'm doing is substituting 199 square foot structure for something that's 215 square feet. And yeah, I mean, yeah, of course it's closer to the setback, but I mean, I would think that if anybody was really honest, they'd rather look at the one that we're going to build, and because it's further to the back than the one that's there.
And then to that point, just leaving it the size that it is, so it's within the setback and just kind of refreshing it is not an option?
Oh, of course it's an option. Yeah, it's an option, but what would happen is that because it's not really deep enough, and if you walk through it, you would see it immediately, but you'd have to cut out the brick and the structural wall, and you'd have to open it up. And it just, quite frankly, it's just, I don't think it would ever look good from the front. I don't think it looks good now. I don't think it's going to look, that old saying, slap lipstick on a pig, it's not going to look good. So, to me, I think it, common sense to do something that's a little nicer. And yeah, I get that it's a little closer than what's there, but the massing of it isn't anymore.
Thank you.
So you're welcome.
Other board members with questions? I have a question.
Sure, Paul.
If you go to the proposed rear elevation, and I'm looking at the markings off to the left. You have 125.16. It's like the ridge line at that number, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, and what's the FFE mean?
First floor.
Okay.
That what you're
So
talking about?
you've got as you're going down towards the bottom, we've got 95.76 for the garage, correct?
Yes.
And then you've got 88.68 for the basement. It looks like the doors are much lower than that 88.6.
Yeah, that's the existing basement.
Okay, so what's the proposed basement is what? How far down? Further down?
7 risers.
Another 5-6 feet?
It's 7 risers, so 7 times 7, like 50 inches.
So a little more than 4 feet.
1 inch. Yeah.
So,
I mean, Paul,
oh, no, my point is, you're going from 125 down to 84, and that's 41 feet. And we were testifying before about the engineer was testifying of it being 30.
No, 40.
Was,
40.
Ms. Muller's plans indicate 125.16 down to 84.7 for 40.5 feet.
Okay.
And
I just didn't see it listed here, so I was questioning, how much is it going down from there?
And Paul, the only reason we have those extra stairs in there is because that's the way the topography goes through. But I mean, if we wanted to make that floor the same as the floor that's already there, we could, only it would be the 4 feet above the ground. So it makes, we're just utilizing the topography to work with what we think is better. That's all.
Hey, members of the public with questions. Why don't we get the attorney, counsel up first? Yeah.
Mr. Jordan.
Just again, just for the record, please, your appearance.
Sure. John Urson, Shank Price, representing Margaret Sellers.
Thank you. And Mr. Urson, before you get too far, we were talking before about stopping at 9:30 so we can reach the next application this evening as well. So just, so that's on your mind as you begin.
Yeah.
Unless you want to defer to other members of the public.
Yeah, I think there's probably very little point in me starting for 6 minutes.
That's what I was starting to get to, right? We could handle a couple of other members of the public maybe in that time, and then you will have uninterrupted cross time next time.
Very good.
Okay.
All right. So other members of the public with questions, come up to the microphone.
My name is Bill Robinson. I live at 9 Spring Hill Lane. And this is sort of a definitional question. I'm not a trained architect. You obviously are a very skilled and experienced architect, and I respect that. We're calling the appendage room a pool room. But it looks to me, you've got a bedroom, you've got a dining or a kitchen, you've got a bathroom, and you've got a sitting room. Is there any reason it couldn't be an apartment?
Yeah, it'd be illegal.
Okay, or, I mean, there's nothing structurally that would keep it from being a separate dwelling, like a B&B or Airbnb or something like that.
You don't have separate utilities, and it's illegal.
You have a kitchen, right?
You don't have separate utilities. You don't have separate gas, electric.
Okay.
You don't have anything that's metered separately.
Okay.
No.
Does that matter? Or?
No, my rentals all have heat included.
Well, you
So you
can
could-
have heat included. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying in a normal situation, if you were building something new, like if I was building this to be an apartment, I would get separate utilities.
But I'm saying a future owner, even if Mr. Ewing's not intending to do that, could a future owner do that?
I'm sure the neighborhood would notice that there's people that look like they're renting it and coming in. Mike has family that he's going to utilize.
Any other members of the public?
Julie Winter, 210 Mount Kimball Ave. I just want to make sure I understand the variances that are being requested. The height is now no longer an issue.
Correct.
And the fence is no longer an issue.
Correct.
But the setbacks.
Two setbacks.
Side yard setbacks
The side
are
yard.
the issue.
And can you tell me those dimensions again?
On the, for the garage pool house, the new setback is 14.25.
And could be 50.
Okay, for the
No, 20.
20.
the extension of the existing garage, the widening of it, That leads you to 14 feet.
And again, 20 feet.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. And that's it for variances.
No, the office with all the windows that we talked about, that's 9 feet. And then
And
for,
again, 20 feet.
Yes.
Well, you gotta be
Yep.
30, 50.
and then for completeness, there's a regulation that says both side yards have to total 50. And under the proposal, they total 23.
How wide's the lot?
And no other variances being requested.
No other variances.
Thank you.
Well,
Well, Dave, I think you do still show a wall height variance at seven and
We
a half
showed that,
feet,
but
right?
then the testimony was with the cable fencing that we're using, we will be less than 25% solid. And that section that I quoted, Rich, if you want to write it down, is 95-36 capital D 1H. Says that if you're less than 25% solid and equal to or less than 3.5 feet high, you do not count that fence.
All right, so we are omitting that.
Again, Gloria Karsten, 9 Spring Hill Lane. I think we can all agree that the proposal by Mr. Dorn is very attractive and functional for the homeowner, but it does come at the expense of.
it's questions right now.
Actually, doesn't it come at the expense of the immediate neighbors and in essence, the entire neighborhood? Gives them less enjoyable quality.
Is that I don't think that's a question for Mr. Dorn.
No, we're here, he's an architect. We're going to have a testimony from a professional planner.
My question to Mr. Dorn is, how can you accomplish the same high-quality project you want for your client without violating what their zoning laws that are already being violated, and many, many more are being violated? How can you accomplish the same quality product without violating any more zoning laws?
Well, the property already has some issues, but we're not, that's why we're before the board. It's before the board. That's why we have you folks voicing your opinion. That's why the board is going to vote on this. I'm not trying to violate anybody's property. I'm trying to make it nicer for everybody. And
That's not true.
well, it's not
It's
true
his
for
opinion,
you.
so.
It's not true for you, but I'm sorry about that.
If I'm not an immediate neighbor, I have no direct impact.
Okay, let's limit it to questions.
Leanne Nugent, 38 Springbrook Road. Can you go back, Mr. Dorn, to your office photo?
Sure. Yeah.
By the way, I'm Italian as well.
Okay. So you
My
understand.
neighbors are my friends.
So you understand what I was talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
And I live within the rules.
Yeah, you should.
Can I, yeah, can you go back? Oh, before you go, I'll stay on this one, because I do have a question for you on the back elevation. If you could lower the view, so we can see, yes. So this would be looking from the neighbor, and I do not believe the neighbor below this property is here, but addition F, that is 3 stories with the walkout. My question again comes back to, look how much higher the main house is above it. And we can all say 1 floor if we have steps going down from 1 floor to the other. 7 risers. Split levels have that too, but they're different floor levels. So my question to you, is that still a 3-story home?
Yeah, the way you have to think about it is that the ceiling of all of that is all the same. So the fact that in the old house, it's say 8 feet, and you come down to where the new part is, it's higher. The steps just facilitate you to get down there. And as I said before, if that was ever an issue, we could make the floor all the same. But because the topography exists the way it is, it's easy, it's nicer and it's easier from our client for us to facilitate coming down and having a higher ceiling in there, but it's still one floor.
And the neighbors behind look up higher at a bigger structure. I know when we wanted to put, and this is more a question for the town, and we wanted to put dormers out of our attic because we have a walkout basement. We were told that we could not, without a major variance, that because we already have a walkout basement, our attic could not have dormers to be used. So this structure seems very similar in that essence. But if you could please go back to
Like a picture of my old office.
So what is the setback from your side of your office to your property line there? I see a driveway. Driveway not larger than 9 feet wide?
It's very similar, actually. On the other side of the driveway, I think it's 1.9 feet. So it's about maybe 12 feet.
12 feet, not 9 feet.
Not 9 feet,
Think
no.
about this ceiling.
What-
This ceiling height, to have that structure, this ceiling is taller than 9 feet. To have open glass, you make your assumptions of what's beautiful. It's a beautiful structure. But the old structure, you're making your assumptions and making it demeaning to us, but there are two beautiful windows, gives privacy. It's set back further. And just, would you like that structure? Is my question. 9 feet from your property line, closer to this ceiling than what this is. I believe,
First of all, I'm not making, I never make assumptions. I never
well,
make.
you
I
kept
made.
saying.
Okay, don't argue, let him answer.
I didn't make an assumption. I made a decision because I thought it was like nicer. I think, yeah, it's a lot nicer, but obviously everybody has their own opinion about architecture everywhere. So your opinion is that for you, you'd like to keep the structure that's there with two windows in it. If we would be allowed, if we wanted to, if we kept that building, we could put that all glass. So it would be actually.
Still wouldn't be as close as this.
Don't argue, let him answer.
I'm not, believe me, I'm not trying to argue with you. Whatever you want, that's your prerogative, and I respect that. And the board's going to make a decision. Everybody's going to talk about it. I'm not here to be adversarial. I'm just an architect, and I designed something that I think, because it's further back and it's more compact, for me as an architect, it's a better structure. For you,
You could look at the site plan and the location of the tree. You keep saying that it's further away from, yes, the front tree, not the back tree. It is, that structure will be closer to the back tree. That tree is not even well represented on the site plan. That tree really is on the border of our two properties. So that tree's root system will be affected being so close to it. So you keep claiming moving it back is helping the trees, is helping. The front tree has been established with what is there. Moving a structure back affects the back tree.
I'm not going to argue with you on that. No, there are things that you can do if you are digging. The foundation for that isn't going to be that deep. It's going to be 42 inches, so it's not that deep. But I'm not, you guys think I'm here to argue with you guys. I'm not. I like to be friendly. So I'm not here to argue, and you say things, I'm taking it in. That's what we did the first time. We went back and we tried to make as many changes as we could. We thought would be good. Obviously, you disagree, and that's why we're all here. But I don't think we have to be.
Okay, let's not argue. If there's a question, there's a question. If not, we're gonna move on. But it is 25 of, and so we had talked about stopping at 9:30 so we can get this other application in. So when can we reschedule this to continue the cross-examination?
Sonia, what's the next date we have?
May 20th.
You'll be busy on May 20th. That's your other one. Got to that, right? Yeah.
That's okay. I had 3 in Harding last week. All of them
Yeah.
Poor guy.
So we.
All right, so is that the date then, May 20th?
Yes.
Okay, so for the public, this hearing is being adjourned until May 20th at 7 PM in this room. There'll be no further notices from the applicant.
I've got a big problem. My son's graduating from Notre
And
Dame.
being
He's paying
commissions into the Army on that date. So they're immediate.
Well, I have also the Greenwald Hanover Estates application.
Yep. Which will probably take up most of the night if you wanted it to. You can run
I
this
don't
one
know
to
that I
June.
want it.
Yeah. What do we have in June?
Kill this.
We're talking about it. Okay. Mr. Chairman, my clients asked, nothing in April that could be done?
April is closed.
April's booked.
April's booked.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna do June unless you wanna ask for a special meeting.
I wouldn't mind a special meeting at all. Would you mind?
I would.
I assume there's a fee for a special meeting?
Yes.
There is.
You know what that is?
I don't, but I would guess 1,500. Do you?
35.
35?
That's
Okay.
each. Yeah, each,
That's
3,500
why I
each.
asked, because every town has fees for special meetings.
Well, let me ask,
Yeah, 10 times your regular pay.
Sure.
if there is a special meeting, is it our special meeting?
Yes,
It'll
it's only
be a
you.
meeting for you. Yep.
When can we schedule?
You'd have to poll the board.
We would have to hold the board.
Well,
So Dave, we could schedule you for May 20th with the thought that you would not be heard, only that if, we would try and appoint a special meeting
Why
on
don't
May
we-
20th, and if we, why don't we do that for April?
Yeah.
All right, we'll do it for April's meeting, and we can get you a special maybe in May. If we can do something before the April meeting, you'd have to
I have
renotice.
to renotice, but if we
Right.
can schedule, announce the April meeting now, then when we
Then
get.
on April, we announce when the regular meeting,
no
the
announcement,
special meeting.
Special meeting is going to be.
Yes.
All right.
I'm sorry, I didn't follow that.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna reschedule this for the April meeting. But the April meeting is merely to give a date for when the special meeting is gonna occur.
We're going to have to coordinate the special meeting.
We gotta
It's not going to
coordinate
happen tonight.
So is it not going to be on a regular meeting now? Is that what I'm hearing?
Right. It'll be its
Right.
own
So
special
if
night.
not, if not, it would be in
It'll be
June.
its own special meeting.
But it's going to be on a regular meeting.
No, it'll be a
No.
special date, just for you,
So why don't we just pick a date now?
because we have to like.
Because we don't have
coordinate
everyone
everything.
here. We have to make sure the board members are available. Sorry?
I'm happy to give notice.
No, we have to make sure we have enough board members.
Right.
Okay, now that I understand.
Yeah, so that's the reason.
And we're missing two.
Let's do it next week.
We,
That was kind of a joke.
yeah, I understand.
Okay, so April is
So
when?
for notice purposes, April what, sorry?
29.
April 29th. Okay, so this meeting, as you just heard, is being adjourned until April 29th for the sole purpose in April of assigning a new hearing date. April 29th, this matter will not be heard except for assigning a new date.
And if
Okay.
it's, just so everybody understands, Rich, and if we get a special meeting earlier, new notice will go out.
Right, correct, what he said. If the board is available earlier than that, he'll have to send new notices out.
you need any extension of time? Not sure where we are.
Why don't we go through June 30,
Okay.
right?
I'll send something out.
June 30. All right.
Let's get this other one up and
Gotcha.
going. Thank you very much.
There's that. One of
Yes. Yes. Hey, guy, what's going on?
This one, right?
Long time.
Three
A little more
pages.
areas.
Yes, I can tell you, bring it up now.
We have the best of intentions to have this new plan. Spend the next morning sorting through it. and
Figure it out. Yeah.
Take your time, but hurry up.
Yep, see you later.
Yeah, memorandum.
Look at all this technology.
The crowd emptied out.
I'm not sure. No. Did you want to put it? Did you want to tell your computer?
I just said that's, if that's an option next time. You had your. Can't you see one?
Okay, thank you.
So you may proceed. Craig Gilgallen, Gilgallen and Rudy Law Firm. I represent 390 South Street. LLC. Looking for approval tonight, and we'll move as quickly as you would like. Okay. One expert. Yes, Mr. Roddy.
Jeff, would you stand, raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
Frank Jeff Roding,
And you're here to testify as an expert in what field?
architecture.
And your license is intact, and you've testified here many times.
Yes,
We'll accept.
thank you very much.
Just want to make sure proper notice was given in publication.
We do have jurisdiction. The notices are in proper form, served timely to the 200-foot list, published timely, so the board has jurisdiction. Thank you.
Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you. To give you an overview of the project, there's an exhibit on the board, which is the submitted plan. It is our drawing T101. It shows the survey of the property. It is on the corner of Dwyer and South Street across from the firehouse. You're probably all familiar with it. The subject of this application is the garage on the lower portion of that site that presently has two garage doors immediately adjacent to the movement across from the firehouse. The applicant has owned the garage for a number of years. Prior, it was a construction garage for Mobile Construction. They used it for their construction equipment. Presently, it's used by John Murphy, our client, who has as a hobbyist, collects fire trucks and works on them a little bit in there, and has a lot of storage in there. If you're familiar with the building, the roof itself has two gables fronting on Dwyer, both of which are in dire need of repair. Really, this is a request to repair a dilapidated building. Right now, There is rotten wood up there. There's trusses that are broken. There's a lot of things that are wrong. We have some bowing walls and some other issues going on. As a result of us going for the repair, we have generated a variance. Presently, there are 2 nonconformities on the property. Otherwise, we're in compliance. 2 nonconformities are overall building coverage. Right now, the required coverage for an accessory structure is 900 square feet. This building is, and I want to make a correction to the application. This building is not 1,875 square feet. We made a mistake. We didn't add 57 square feet. We only added 42 square feet, and I'll explain that in a minute. But the overall number is 2,032 square feet that we're asking for. So we're really only adding 42 square feet to the building, and I'll explain that in the plan. The other issue is a front yard setback. Presently, we are pretty much on the road, and that's a pre-existing condition, and that will not change. The variance we're looking for, if I can move on to the next page. Shift the drawing. Is there only one page up there?
Second page.
There we go. So this is the floor plan of the building. It's our drawing A101, and to orient you, on the right-hand side is Dwyer. So you'll see the right-hand elevation. The right-hand walls have 2 overhead doors that front on Dwyer. It is our desire to replace those with new doors. Essentially rebuild the structure over those doors because the headers are sagging over those doors. And then the building proper is an L-shaped building. If you look in the lower left-hand corner of the lowest portion there, I don't have a cursor, but there's a man door shown going in the lower left-hand corner. That little section right there, and that alone is being added. That's only 6 foot by 7 foot. It's about 42 square feet in the corner. The survey that you have in front of you is dated, and we didn't pick up the fact that there is a piece of the building, and maybe I can enter this in as an exhibit. This is T101, and here's that same Dwyer. This portion of the building is existing. We're only adding this small portion here to square off the building essentially. Okay, and you'll see by the elevations when we get to it why we squared off the building. If you could move to the next drawing, please. So now this is what we're proposing. If you look on the center left-hand elevation, that is the elevation that you would see from Dwyer. If you look at the lower elevation, that is the elevation you would see from the ballpark, from Ginty Field. And if you look at the top elevation, that's from the parking lot. That's the existing parking lot that's on the South Street side. And then the far elevation, the far right elevation is where we were proposing the 42 square foot addition. If you look at the man door on the far right, effectively we squared off that corner. We took what was 2 gable roofs on that front elevation with the overhead doors, and we want to replace them with a gable roof running in the opposite direction. Rather than having gables face Dwyer, we want the shingled roof to turn and face the other way. From a plan standpoint, it covers the entire workspace with 1 truss and very much cleans up the space. In order to get a compatible pitch with what I'd say is a residential look, we have a pitch on there of 5 on 12, which drove our height from 16 foot and change, 16 foot 8, up to 20 feet to the ridge. So we could lower the roof, pitch, but frankly, we think the aesthetic of the 5-on-12 is in keeping with the firehouse across the street. And it's certainly a little bit more attractive than a 4-on-12 or a 3-on-12 pitch on a roof like this. Again, this whole project started with us coming in for repair, and effectively it drove this variance. So we're here to ask, relief from the height ordinance, and that is the only variance that we do have.
Any board members, any questions? No questions. Any members of the public with questions? No questions. Close the public portion. We have the witnesses. Board, any discussion? Not, I'll entertain a motion. Any basis for it?
I move that we approve.
I'll second.
I also would like to add my 2 cents that it's aesthetically much better. It's in need of repair, and the pitch is in conformity with the surrounding buildings.
Yes.
I've been gazing upon that structure for many years, and I like it. I mean, this is going to be a big improvement, but it's
That along with ripping out that other building by the ball field that they took out. Get rid
it'll
of
look
some
good. It'll
dilapidated
look
stuff.
really good when it's done.
Okay, we had a motion, we had a second, so Ms. Santiago.
Mr. Goldberg,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Ms. Simmons,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Woodford.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you all.
Resolution for the next meeting. Okay, I'll send it to you to look at. All right, thanks.
Okay, we got a couple other things before we adjourn, guys.
Take care.
Number one, we have to reapprove the minutes from the January meeting because Donnell was not at that meeting, so he can't approve the minutes. He couldn't second the motion.
Gotcha.
So, wow, you didn't know that, did you? Sonia picked that up.
I usually read it.
Sonia picked that up.
Good job, son.
I was careful not to vote.
So you want a motion to approve the January meeting
Yes.
minutes then, without Donnell voting?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
There you go.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Do you need a roll call?
Ms. Simmons, did you move that?
I did.
She
Ms.
did.
Simmons, you were not here.
She was absent.
January.
Oh, no,
Oh,
I wasn't here in
I make a
January.
motion to move. the
Yeah.
minutes.
Can we vote with just 4?
Yes.
Yes.
Do it again next
We need a
month.
second.
Second.
Okay.
There you go.
All in favor?
Who did who?
I made the motions.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Goldberg, who?
Schuster.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Second thing is we have a draft of the annual report we have to send to the mayor and the members of the township committee. Everybody reviewed it? Any comments, questions? Can you do the quick, please?
As amended, Paul.
Right?
Yep.
Is that it? We'll go with it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion to adjourn?
Now, I just have one question for the board, if that's okay. So remember the application with the gentleman on Normandy with the lights and the tennis court and the
Yes.
poles and all
Sing
that?
How can we
City.
forget that?
Mr. Singh, what's that?
Sing City.
How can we forget things?
Right, so
That's
Sing,
what he called,
yes.
it said it on the
So
wall.
I can't recall where we landed, because the poles are still up. So I didn't know if we were requiring him to take them down or just not turn on the lights. I thought it was that the poles had
Oh,
to.
he actually has to take them down. 'Cause
Yes.
It was denied, so
He's been sent a letter to remove the poles. He can leave them on site. He has stated that he is getting together with his engineer and they're going to put him in a proper location facing into the property.
What?
And they're going to come in front of the planning board because it's conditional use at that point.
Poor Rusty.
Yeah.
making
As
money.
for the wall, I told them that back when we had warmer weather, like 3 weeks ago, I asked why the wall wasn't painted yet, and he stated he was going to tarp it. I don't know if it was tarped. I haven't been there to take a look at it, but he's given me 2 paint chips, neither of what I like, but they're both green. So he's going to be painting the wall as soon as the weather permits.
So the plan is that the poles are going to come down and be re-implemented with, upon approval from the planning board somewhere else on the property facing in,
Facing towards his house.
In a permitted
in a
location.
permitted location. Okay, okay, thank you.
Remember,
That's
there
the key
was the
part.
tennis court, and there was a side entrance into the tennis court where
Yeah.
there was a sitting area. Now he's proposing putting a light to the left of that walkway and a light to the right of the walkway. It's all within the setbacks, so going to the planning board for a conditional use.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the update.
And the planning board will have to decide if that's glare, because your ordinance doesn't define glare, but it says it
He
can't
may
cause
have to
glare.
Do his shield.
So, yeah, right. I mean, there's ways to avoid it, right?
Okay, thanks for the
It's
update.
permitted then.
Okay, thank you.
I have a clarifying question.
Sure.
So this Springbrook Road issue, and we were going to postpone it till May, but we decided not to because the resident couldn't be present or because of.
Yeah, pretty
And then they're next door, so they really do deserve to be here if they spoke up properly. It's not like we got far into it.
It's something about Notre Dame Army, something?
Yeah,
the kids graduating Notre Dame. Oh, okay,
And she's
okay.
being commissioned as an officer.
I certainly can understand that one. Although on Monday is weird, but okay.
Yeah, well, Notre Dame might take a while. Did she say she's being commissioned or she's?
I
being
thought,
commissioned?
the
Same kid,
son,
I think.
The son's being
the
commissioned.
son,
So it's an ROTC.
yeah. That's what I thought.
Oh, it's probably in South Bend and they probably can't get back.
But the
Yeah.
point is, it's the next door neighbor who has a vested interest, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it was like me,
If it was the Spring Hill folks, it'd have been a different story though.
probably.
Okay.
Yeah,
Or the people who live on Mount Kemble and want to kibitz.
Yeah.
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 Yes.
But the ones who come up to the microphone and say, I really have no interest in this,
Right,
but, and I want to ask questions. So,
Okay,
Well, that's what I was referring to.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So, this annual report is okay for me to distribute to
Yes.
the township?
Yes, it is. Any other business? Any other questions?
If I could just say something, as much as they call this neighborhood quiet and prominent, I just shut down a boarding house on Springbrook Road.
Oh,
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, it had 6 apartments in a 3-bedroom house.
All right.
Basement, first floor, portion of the second floor. So
Wow.
as much as they hate development, they're not paying attention to 7 cars in a driveway and people going in and out all times of the day.
All right.
interesting.
Who aren't related to each
Who aren't
other.
related.
Yeah.
And they're not all on the
Or-
same lease, so
Okay.
they're just renting rooms out.
All
Well,
right.
there was just one in the news in New York City 3 weeks ago, 19 units in one house.
I can tell you right now, there's 10 off of Monroe Street.
Boy.
Oh, that disaster?
Yeah,
We're not even allowed to go in there.
right. The state's,
Fire department can't go in.
yeah,
It's too dangerous.
And the one on the corner of Monroe and Cedar?
yeah. Yeah.
Where's that?
That needs to be knocked down.
The state has taken over our enforcement of that one.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I know where Monroe is.
Let's take a look at that.
But,
It's between, it cuts between
MLK?
MLK.
MLK and West Hanover.
Oh, okay,
Oh.
okay.
It's right across the street from.
That house that's
Oh,
across the
okay.
state.
Oh, there, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Tuckerfield.
Okay, I know where that.
Okay.
I know that.
Tuckerfield in one direction
Yeah,
and the
big house, that's
cemetery in
it.
the other.
Yes.
Oh, we did that already.
Yeah, we thought we did.
I didn't hear.
After-
I didn't hear it.
Okay, I move that we adjourn.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.